Thank you so much, Sachin. It's my privilege to listen to all three presentations that I've just listened to, full of innovative ideas, creativity, um, and what I will do is to add, not from a technology angle, but somewhat what Supriya started mentioning about the human side of um, the story, and also bringing a kind of institutional lens to it. Um, let me begin by encouraging all of us to use a social justice lens to the discourse on measuring programs for access to justice. And this is for three reasons. First, it may provide a broader canvas to act and to facilitate social transformations aiming at correcting some of the historical injustices perpetuated in our society, primarily based on, let's say, gender, caste, ethnicity, age, so on and so forth, which are in a way structural inequalities. Second, by focusing on social justice, we might be able to understand the justice ecosystem, as has been discussed since the morning. It might sort of comprehensively not only include the judiciary, but also statutory quasi judicial institutions, such as a vast array of commissions, both at the union level as well as at the state level, whose mandate is to secure justice for the most marginalized sections. I will come back to this point in more details later in my presentation. And the third reason is that by expanding the horizon of justice ecosystem in the context of social justice, we would be able to prioritize the role of citizens and their associations, including civil society groups, in advancing social transformation based on our eternal belief in liberty, equality, and fraternity. As far as measuring the progress towards social justice is concerned, uh, Sachin, it might be prudent to focus on the goal 16 of the sustainable goals as a reference point. And this goal is dedicated to, if I may read, promotion of peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, the provision of access to justice for all, and building effective, accountable institutions at all levels. And as you know, there are 12 targets and 23 indicators for SDG 16. I would like to highlight a couple of these targets, which, in my view, are critical for achieving the goal of social justice. Um, let's talk about target 16.1 and 16.2. 16.1 talks about significantly reduce all forms of violence and related death rates everywhere. So although the emphasis was to count the death, occurrence of death, but what can be appreciated here, the associated indicator acknowledges physical violence, psychological violence, and sexual violence. And on the same note, the target two talks about protecting children from abuse, exploitation, trafficking, and violence. And one of the associated indicators emphasizes sexual violence against young women, young men and women. Now, Priya, my own organization, has been actively addressing both these targets by working on the issues related to violence against girls and women. And we understand that the gender-based violence at home, at public places, as well as at workplaces is perpetuated through um, deep patriarchal attitudes and behavior. So while the existing laws need to be leveraged, there is no alternative to enhance and build the agency of young adolescent girls and women on one hand, and to sensitize the men and boys about the adverse impact of gender-based violence in society, polity, and economy, particularly with regard to their equal participation. So while we continue to measure the reduction in violence, it is equally important to measure the level of participation by women and girls in societal affairs, everyday politics, and economic activities. And if you would agree that of late, particularly in the wake of pandemic, there are concerns that workforce participation of women, particularly those associated with informal economy, has substantially reduced. Concerns are also around the increased incidences of domestic violence against women and girls. The progress made during these years are showing some reverse trend which need to be corrected. I'll just take one more target and
just 1 minute left, Kostav.
Okay, so target 6 talks about the to develop effective, accountable, and transparent institutions. And institutions are critical. In 2013, Priya undertook an institutional assessment of SC/ST, minorities, women, and person with disability commissions in 7 states. The assessment made some critical reflections and recommendations. So first of all, it talked about the defining an independent identity and autonomy, including the membership criteria, appointment of the commissioners, and independent power to the commissions. Second recommendation was enhancing institutional capacities and both, strengthen the financial as well as human resource, as Supriya was talking about, strengthen the internal mechanisms within these commissions. And in a way, the outreach and disclosure for these commissions by enhancing awareness among the community about the legal rights and the powers and function of these commissions, by decentralizing the apparatus of these commissions at the district level. So this was to enhance the outreach and disclosure. And nurturing relationship with a whole set of other stakeholder institutions, particularly the judiciary, local governance institution, civil society groups, academia, and media. An important recommendation was to think about an institutional architecture which would facilitate coordination between and among various states commission. So let me complete in 30 seconds that one of the goals also talked about the satisfaction with public services, and Priya has been working for last 40 years to facilitate accessing public services, particularly by the marginalized groups. And we have taken a participatory social accountability approach, and helping community to generate data and evidence and facilitating constructive engagement with the local governance institutions and other service providers. And that's the way, to my mind, and to our belief, that a broader engagement, a more constructive engagement would lead to greater social justice. Let me stop, Sachin, and thank you so much for giving this opportunity.